I grew up in the foster system from ages 7 to 21. When I got taken into ROP, I had been through, I want to say, at least 30 homes at that point.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Thank you for everybody that supported the channel so far. Really appreciate it. And I want to shout out my Patreon and anybody that's joined the channel on YouTube. If you're interested in being interviewed, just go ahead and send me an email in the email linked down below, and we will make that happen. I want to do a moment of silence for the person that's still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction or anything like that. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
Hi, I'm Jay. I went to ROP, Rite of Passage, which is also known as Sierra Sage Academy. I went from around August 2017 to July 2018.
Okay. And walk us through your childhood and like what led up to being sent away. And also, weren't you in the foster care system as well? Or was that something?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew up in the foster system from ages 7 to 21. I also did the extended foster care. I lived with my parents since I was 7, but they weren't really around. I stayed at their friend's house for the most part, and they were very abusive. CPS took me at school because they were afraid of my dad. My dad would threaten them a lot. And so from there, I just kept bouncing from home to home. When I got taken into ROP, I had been through, I want to say, at least 30 homes at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. I was in a temporary foster home when I got taken. So I knew I was going to be leaving, but I didn't know where. I had a court date, and I knew I had a court date, but they didn't let me go. And that was the first court date that they didn't let me go to. So I kind of thought something was up, but I didn't know what was going on.
Okay, so you got transported from your 30th foster care home to this facility. So nobody, and your parents weren't in the picture at all. Like, were you getting visitation or anything like that with your parents?
So my dad passed away when I was 9 due to liver failure and hepatitis C. My mom, she has always been on drugs her whole life, so she wasn't really comprehending everything that was going on. So I spoke to her on the phone, but I didn't really get to see her. She also didn't really help my drug addiction, so when I did see her, she was giving me stuff. So I tried to stay away from that. So as far as I know, my mom actually went to that court date and she didn't even tell me what was going on either. So
Okay. Just trying to illustrate, just like,
yeah.
especially people, I feel like people in foster care and CPS, all that shit, like group homes, like those are some of the most marginalized fucking people, and just people that don't have like anybody to vouch for them.
Yes.
Literally. And like, these people make money in these foster care homes, and then they make money from sending them to these other places, like outsourcing the fucking, essentially outsourcing abuse. That's literally what it is. You're just outsourcing abuse to other places. And just like want to illustrate that, y'all are one of the most vulnerable,
Right. Yeah, I didn't really have anybody advocating for me. I mean, shout out my CASA worker. Usually there's not a lot of good CASA workers. A court-appointed special advocate. I don't know if there's in every state. I was in California when it was going on, but she's been with me since I was 9. And she's always kind of supported me and spoke up for me as much as she could. But again, the system kind of fails everybody and doesn't listen to the people who are advocating for us.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so when you got outsourced, essentially, like, were you transported there? How did you get there?
So I actually had a feeling that something was going to happen. So I was telling my foster brother, I had a foster brother and a foster sister, and my foster brother was a year younger. My foster sister was a couple years younger. So I kind of tried to keep her away from all the abuse and stuff that was going on. I had a feeling something was going to happen and I wanted to run away, and my foster brother was like, no, just like it's just a feeling, just troop through it. And I was like, okay, just for the night. And so we were gonna all hang out in the middle of the night like we normally do, you know, play video games or whatever after after the foster parents go to sleep. And so
Mhm.
I was waiting for them to text me, and I fell asleep, and I woke up to my social worker walking in the room with two cops and one of the transport girls. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And she's like, you already know what's going on. And I knew I was leaving, but I didn't know like the severity of it. And like, but I kind of thought it was severe because cops were there, and that's never happened when I had to leave. um and so I was like crying, and she was like, you're gonna be going to another group home. And I was like, okay. And I was like crying. I was like, I'll do whatever. Like, I don't want to go to another group home. And they were like, there's nothing we can do. I had these really short shorts on. And so I felt really uncomfortable because it was mainly all males except for the one of the girls transporting me and my social worker. And so I was like, can I please change? Can you like walk out of the room? Like one of you girls can stay here with me. And they were like, no. And so I was like, okay. And so they grabbed, like, because my room was messy, they grabbed a piece of my clothes and they threw it at me and they were like, put these on. I was like, okay, like, can you look away? And they were like, no, we have to make sure you don't run. And so I was like standing there crying, arguing with them back and forth, whether or not I can change with them looking at me or not. And then finally, my social worker takes my shorts off and then like tries to put my jeans on. And I was like, okay, I'll just do it. So I put my jeans on, and then something in me, I just ran to the window and was trying to open it. So they restrained me. They pushed me up against the wall, put me down on the ground, put my hands behind my back. I was like, please don't put me in cuffs. And I argued with them for a little bit. And then they didn't put me in cuffs because I was begging and begging. And I like just put my hands behind my back and just walked out. And I was like, can I please write a note to my foster brother and sister? And they were like, fine. And so I wrote like a really quick note. I said, hey, I'm going to a group home. Don't know how long. I love you guys. And then they put me in the back of this big giant, it wasn't a van, but it was like a big SUV. It had the front seat, a middle seat, and then the back seat. And so they put me all the way in the back seat. And then one of the transporters was in the middle seat, and one of them was driving. And I kind of just laid there for a minute, and I was like, where are we going? And they were like, a group home. And I was like, do you know where? And they're like, no, we're just paid to take you. And I was like, okay. And so I just tried to go to sleep, and I did. And when I woke up, there was a bunch of trees. I knew I wasn't in California anymore because the palm trees were gone. And I was like, where are we? And they were like, oh, we're in Nevada. And I was like, what? And I kept asking, where are we going? Where are we going? And they're like, we don't know. We don't know. And I just was like, okay, like this isn't a normal group home, I don't think. And then I got there, and it was in the middle of nowhere, this big building, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not a normal group home.
Okay. And so you'd been to other group homes before
Yeah.
this? How many group
Yeah,
homes?
I've been to three. One was in San Luis Obispo, California, called YTP. That was a lower level. I got to wear my own clothes. I couldn't go out of the house, and I couldn't have a phone. But if you did good, you could go on outings. I went to school at my normal school. Second group home was a little bit more of a higher level. I could only wear certain things on certain days, and they had to kind of watch me at school. Like they had a person at the school sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And there was six girls in there. The first one I had was co-ed, the first group home, and that was 12 kids. And the second group home was six kids, but it was more higher level because those people were like at higher risk, and my risk level for running away just kept going up and up more the more times I ran. And then it was ROP.
Okay. And at these group homes before you got to the crazy one,
Mm-hmm.
um, what was like the structure of those group homes? Like what would you do on like a kind of like a daily basis? I know probably every day wasn't the same, but like was there like points and levels where there like consequences against stuff? Like how did it operate? And
Yeah.
how were you placed there for just an indefinite amount of time, or was there a way for you to get out of the group home?
So the first group home, I went almost immediately after I got taken from my mom the second time. So I actually went back to my mom for about 6 months when I was 12, and that's when my harder drug addiction kind of started. And right after that, I got put into a temporary foster home, well, a couple of them, and then finally the group home. So I was in those temporary foster homes for maybe a couple days, a week, a couple days, a month maybe, and then the group home. And so at that first group home, there was a upstairs for the girls and a downstairs for the guys. And how it worked was you wake up at a certain time. If you shower in the morning, they have a certain time for you to shower. Then you have to sit down at a table with everybody and eat, but they had a certain way of doing it. You had to be quiet for 3 minutes before you ate, and if anybody broke the silence, you started over. So sometimes we'd be waiting for like an hour and a half because we're all kids, and I was probably one of the youngest ones in that one. I was 12, and the oldest one was 17, almost 18. So after breakfast, then they would take you to school if there was school. If it was summer, then if you were on program, which meant you behaved well and you didn't lose any points, because there was kind of like a point system. But at the same time, they didn't follow the point system because that group home, they kind of did whatever they wanted. So the staff had favorites, and if they didn't like you, they would put you off program. They didn't really like me because I would see them do something for another kid that they wouldn't do for that, or go against the rules, and I would say something, and then I'm the one making problems. So I was always off program. I never went on any outings. So if there was outing time, they would go on outing time, and then they would come back and we would have dinner again, the 3 minutes. I think dinner was 5 minutes though. So it just like kept getting longer and longer. And then you got to have free time for like an hour, and we had a TV in the living room, but you only could watch certain things. We had like two movies, and one of them was Harry Potter, and the other one I can't remember. And then we also had a backyard that had a basketball hoop, and I would play basketball a lot. Um, and then it was nighttime. If you showered, you had a time to shower. And then at the end of the night before you went to bed, they would get the girls together with the girl staff, and they would get the guys together with the guy staff. And they would go through your whole day and tell you what you did wrong and what you did right, and then what you could do tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. And is that what the second one was like as well? Kind of just
The
like the
second
same
one
thing?
was a little bit different. It was still programmed like you had certain times to do things, but this one, we had a long hallway with an office in the hallway. So we had 3 rooms, and you had a roommate. And
Sorry, my cat like flipped the camera.
you're all good. I got a kitty too. The second group home, you had to ask to go into your room, and you had to ask to come out of your room. You had to ask to go into the kitchen. The first group home, you couldn't eat whenever you wanted. There were scheduled times, and the fridge had like one of those chained locks around it. Um, the second group home didn't have that, but you had to ask to go into the kitchen. Um, that one, you had several staff, even though it was less kids. And you had a therapist that was there, not 24/7, but pretty much most of the day. So if anything happened, you would have therapy every day, either individual or group, with the whole house. And then they would also have other houses. So they had a boys' home, and they had another girls' home, which was in the city. We were out in the country because we all ran away a bunch of times. And so we would all get the homes together and like work on whatever they wanted us to work on that day. That didn't happen too often. But like, yeah, we didn't do much in that one. I kind of tried to block that one out because I was just so focused on getting out. That one was, my social worker told me if I did good for 6 months straight, then I could go into a foster home. And that's what I really wanted because I was tired of group homes and having to run away and be in temporary foster homes and move to the next one. I just wanted a long-term home. And I did good for 6 months, and then she told me I had to be there for another 6 months. They didn't have a home, so I ran away, and I called my CASA worker. I even called social services, and I was like, I did good. And then I don't know how, but I think maybe a week later, a home opened, and it was a home I actually had been in before. It wasn't a long-term home, but it was a home.
Okay. And quick question on the foster homes. Was there ever any like abuse that happened within any of those foster settings?
Yeah, so there was a lot, especially in the beginning when I first went into foster care. My first home, like obviously I didn't know what was going on. When I got picked up from school, uh, I had recognized the social worker. She had come to our house before. I knew my parents didn't like her, but my parents didn't like a lot of people. So I just kind of figured she was just a friend that wasn't really a friend. But she came to pick me up. She got me Burger King and was like, "You're going to go to a friend's house." And I was like, "Okay." And then I get dropped off and I'm like, "I don't know these people." And she's like, "No, they're going to be your friends." So I'm very confused. And then I find out I can't talk to my parents. So like I lash out as a kid, and then because of that, they retaliated and they would lock me in my room. And I remember they had like a like wide enough opening at the bottom of the door to slide plates underneath. So they would feed me that way if they were really mad at me. On good days, I was allowed to eat at the table, and they had like chickens and like gardens and stuff. So they had a big thing of like leftover food. So if you didn't finish your food, it goes in there and then it goes in the garden, I guess. But several times they would just take that whole thing and just dump it on me and then tell me I couldn't shower. And then I would get bullied at school because I smelled so bad. um, the second foster home, I remember that it was a large Mexican family and I was the only white girl and they didn't like that I was white. So they had me sit outside at every meal and they would make my food like super spicy. Like they knew I couldn't really handle it and it was to the point like where I would cry and they would just make me eat it and they would make me sit outside for hours until I could go in and sleep. And then they would like beg me to have them adopt me, and I didn't understand because they did all these things like I wasn't allowed to eat inside and stuff like that. I wasn't allowed to hang out with friends. I was barely allowed to talk to my mom or my CASA worker. They would make fun of me a lot. Like I would play with dolls as a 10-year-old and they would just make fun of me because I played with dolls. They would make fun of how I looked because I was white a lot. um, just stuff like that.
Okay. And okay, so what do you remember about when you first got to the like really bad one?
ROP. So I remember we pulled up, and for some reason they let me take a bag of clothes. I don't know what was in the bag. They just stuffed whatever was they could on my floor because it was really dirty. And so I had my bag and I walked in, and they walked me in, and it was the medical staff and then another case manager, I think she was. Like she was supposed to be my case manager. I changed like case managers like 5 different times while I was there. Um, so they took my bag and they gave me some clothes and they told me to go into this room and change, and they just kind of stood there and watched me change. And I was like, okay. So I didn't feel super uncomfortable because they were girls, but at the same time it was like this place was like all brick walls. Like it just like it felt like just not good. And so I got dressed and I was like, so when am I getting my clothes back? And they're like, you're not. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they asked me a bunch of questions about my medical history. And um, then uh, they got one of the staff from the unit that I was in. There was 3 different units and 2 of the main ones. So there were 60 girls altogether. Um, and so they took me to my unit and they showed me my room. And so in the unit, you go in and there's 2 sides and there's I want to say 6 rooms on each side, and you have a roommate. So there's 12 girls on each side. And they showed me to my room, and it had a door that didn't close all the way. The window was there, but it was foggy, so you couldn't see out the window. And it was 2 beds and then two closets, like really little closets. You had like a little bar and then like a cubby at the bottom, and then a desk. And that was it. And that's what I can remember from that day, because I was also kind of hardened to my addiction. So when they woke me up, I was kind of like thrown off, not only because of everything, but I was still a little messed up. So I was still trying to it felt like a dream.
Okay. And since you said that you were doing a little bit of substances, let's go back and like, when did that start? Do you remember something that started that off, like something happening? And
Yeah.
then, what was it? And then
So
what were you doing up until you went there, essentially?
yeah, so when I was younger and staying with my parents' friends, they used to like shoot up my ankles and sprinkle meth into my cereal. That's not what started it, but from, when my mom was having me and her, was pregnant with me, um, she was doing meth and heroin and drinking a lot. So I mean, I was born addicted, and so I stopped. I mean, I didn't really do it. They were doing it for me. They were forcing me to do it, I guess. And then when I went into foster care, none of that was around me until I went to school. And then people started offering me stuff. And I was like, oh, I've seen that. I like that's familiar. And so I started smoking weed when I was 10. And then I started doing Xanax when I was 11. And then when I moved in with my mom again, that's when I was doing meth. And then from there, it was just whatever got offered to me. I would do pretty much everything here and there. I've never done ketamine or DMT, but pretty much else.
Okay. Okay. And were you injecting the meth or smoking it or?
I was smoking and snorting it.
Okay.
I always had a thing about needles ever since my childhood,
Yeah.
because like yeah.
Okay. And so, were you going through any sort of withdrawal? Did you notice any withdrawal? I know meth is more of just like a, at least for me, it's more of like just a heavy depression where I just don't want to do like jack shit and I just don't even want to live, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much come down on meth for me. And you're tired. But did you
It would
notice?
definitely be like that. Yeah, I did notice it. I mean, after it kind of wore off, I was sleeping a bunch, and when it was really like coming out of my body, I felt like I was sweating a lot, and I would get like really shaky here and there, like on and off. And then I was just super hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they didn't feed me too when I was there because I was vegan. So a lot of the times it was like you either ate the slop that they put on the plate or you starve.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And were you on any prescription medications like before you went?
So not when I got there, but when I was there, they put me on a lot of medication, and for the most of it, I don't know what it was, but it was like if you didn't take your meds, they put you in the unit. It's called Legend, and it was basically like solitary, and that's where a lot of the abuse happened.
Okay. How long after you got there did they give you any sort of? Oh yeah, never mind. You didn't have anybody to call. Okay, never mind. Never mind on that. Ixnay on that. Um, did they offer phone calls? Do you know if they offered phone calls, or was there anybody there that had a family, or was it just like foster kids?
Yeah, so there was a lot of different people. There was a couple people there who was doing their time in ROP instead of juvie. There was a couple people on trial for like assisted murder type stuff.
Okay.
So there was stuff like that. And then ROP focused a lot on girls who were trafficked or sexually abused. So there was a lot of people like that, and then there was also foster kids.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. What was your? Did you spend any time in solitary?
I did, but not because of behavior wise. I went, so when I did like PE, I would like go as hard as I could, and I used to wake up early and work out and stuff. So I don't think I was stretching properly, and I just like kept pulling stuff. So I would sit or lay in there for maybe a day or two. But, and for the most part, they didn't mess with me when I was there because I wasn't there long enough, but I did see and hear.
Okay. And what was the structure of this place? Was it
Okay.
similar to the last
Yeah.
place? Sir?
So it's a lot more structured. So it's we have the two main units, and those units are allowed to come out of their unit. Obviously, like it's structured when the staff or when we're lined up. We can't just walk out of the unit. That's not a thing. So in the morning, if our unit is first to eat, then we wake up, you brush your teeth, and then you line up. Everybody has a uniform, and you line up, and then we go to the dining hall, which is on property, and you sit down and you I forgot what they do, but they do something before the food, and then they call up the sides, and they do table by table by side. So there was maroon side and silver side for each unit. And then you ate, and if we were the first, we would have to go back to the unit and get our book bags and get into school clothes. And then we line up and we go to school, which is also on the property right by the cafeteria. And you had three classes. You had math, which was also mixed in with history. You had English, and then you had like I don't know what to call this class. It kind of did whatever. It did health. It did like we learned about horses and like random stuff in that class. Um, so you had your first class, and then you had what they're called PRPs or something like that. I can't remember. PSDs. Yeah, PSDs. That's what they're called. And I forgot what it stands for, but you get into your whole side gets together and like gets desks, and then you have a book that like it tells you like different things that you can work on. Like one of them was dealing with contradictory messages, and so it had like different questions like, is this a thinking, is it an action, is, and then you would have to write it down, and then we would talk about it, and then we would line up and go back to the unit, and then wait for our turn to eat, go eat, and then we would go to the library if it was not our turn to eat, and then switch, um, go to the next class, and then the next class, and then come back to the unit, get ready for bed, and then kind of stay in your room.
Okay. And how long were you there?
I was there for almost a year.
Okay. And how would you get out of there? Just when they decided that you were ready?
So there was different levels. So there was you came in and you started as an IOT, and that lasted for about 30 days. And then you went to novice, and from there you had one piece of paper where you would have to get your senior coach signature, your just normal coach signature, the supervisor signature, and your case manager signature. And then you have to wait, I want to say 3 weeks, even if you do get those signatures, and then you may become an intern if you have good days. So they would grade you every day. They would give you a red, yellow, or green day, and it was based on percentages. And on the computer, they had different goals for you, specific for you, but they wouldn't tell you what your goals are. So if you didn't meet those goals, you didn't get that certain day. You didn't get a green day. You probably got a yellow day. And they don't like yellow days. They wanted all green days. And so if you got to intern, then it was 2 pages that you would have to get signatures, which is more. They would have to, like, you have to get your senior coach signature for this week, and then the next week you have to get it. So that one took, I want to say, another 6 weeks. You would have to wait 6 weeks to level up. And with these, you get a little bit of something. Like for an intern, you can buy mascara. and that was your thing. And you can wear a headband. I think that's what it was. And then the next one was contributor, and that one was like the big one. You get to wear your own shoes, you get to wear your own outfit on the weekend, and you get to have your hair down. Um, that one took a lot more. You had to get a lot of signatures. You had to wait about 2 months, and you had to write your whole life story and read it in front of the whole kids who were also intern status and above with all the staff members. So every week on Wednesdays, they would do shift change. So the staff that were there for first shift would be going home and they would switch. And also, those were the days that all the status kids who were intern and above would get together and they would just drill you and try to make you break down because they would tell you everything you're doing wrong and all types of stuff. And that was also the meeting that you had to read your life story, and then they would drill you on your life story and they would make you cry. They would tell you, we're trying to break you down.
Yeah. Okay, that's crazy. That's so was this designated as a TTI school already? Or was it just like, was it marketed as like a group home?
It was a therapeutic group home.
Okay, well, this is really interesting because there's like so many similarities. Like what they did is they did the same shit that they were doing in the place that I went, like TTI schools, except they probably left out some like a few things or whatever. But they like with the like breaking you down thing, that would be equivalent to a seminar in the program that I went to.
Yeah.
So that like literally, and the attack therapy, because that would happen in the
Yes.
seminars at the place where I went, but they're just doing that in just a leveling up process there.
Yes. Yes. The more you leveled up, the more you just got drilled into it. Sucked. And then after contributor, there was a leader mentor, but there was maybe 2 people who got that, and you had to do like a whole community service project and all this stuff. But if you got to leader mentor, you were basically like staff, and you got to wear your clothes all the time. You got to wear your hair down. You got to have more makeup. You got to tell kids what to do.
Okay, yeah, that would be equivalent to junior staff where I went.
Yeah.
So that's like the same shit. And then like for like leveling, for like voting up, would you have to have people's support, like everybody's support or a certain number of people's support, or would they just give it to you when you had the signatures?
So it was kind of based on if the case managers and the staff thought that you all deserved it. It wasn't kid based.
Okay, so okay, yeah, the place I
Because
went.
I had my contributor, but I waited a good amount of time because I had my signatures, I had everything. And part of the reason why it took so long for me to get my contributor is because one of the senior staff, um, who was male, who was preying on all of the girls who were sexually abused, and he knew that, he would always try to get me to like do sexual things with him, and I would always like say something, and I would always stand up for myself, and I think he wasn't used to that. And so he didn't vote yes for the longest time.
Okay. So it was just like a certain number of staff had to support you. Is that what you're
All
saying?
of them did.
Okay, okay. Interesting. They just flipped it at the place I went. You would have to have staff support, but then also you'd have to have like a certain number of fucking people. Like when you're on the upper levels, there'd be like a certain number of people on the upper levels, and then on lower levels, there's a certain number of people on the lower levels. But upper levels is the only place that counted because
Mm-hmm.
you were getting 4, 5, and 6 levels, 4, 5, and 6. You were on the upper levels, so you'd have to have like a certain number of people support. And when you're going for 6, you can't have anybody stand up for you. So, like,
Oh,
I
wow.
never got 6.
Yeah.
Like, very few people got 6, but 5 was good enough to graduate. But
Right.
yeah, it's crazy the similarities.
Yeah.
That makes
And the way it did work was if you leveled up, you got to go home, but it really just depended on your situation and what your probation officer or what your social worker, what the judge said. And what they wanted me to do is they wanted me to complete the program, but I never got to leader mentor because they wanted me to do stuff with them and I didn't. But a lot of the time, some people would get up to intern and they would be able to go home because some people, social worker, knew how hard it was to even get that.
Okay. And so the next question is kind of a multi-parter. So like in like the foster homes and the 2 group homes that you were in, what was the worst thing that you saw or experienced in those places? And then also when you went to OTR, is that what it was?
ROP.
ROP. When you went to ROP, what was the worst thing that you experienced or heard about?
So the foster homes, I mean, like there was rape going on, and there was like drug abuse going on, people getting hit and things getting thrown, people yelling, people pulling knives out, people pulling guns out. Um, at ROP, there were cameras in the units. There was a camera, so there was an office, and then you had the rooms in front of the office. So it was a pretty big unit, and the camera only got the bubble and somewhat of outside. So like sometimes shit would happen, but like I would just hear people like they would just like talk down on everybody. Like if they knew something about your life, like my dad passing away, they would always talk about that and like kind of put me down for that. They would say that it was my fault that he did drugs and did that to himself and all types of stuff like that. And but up in the office, there was no cameras. So people were getting used. I remember there were several girls who came up to me and told me that one of the shift supervisors was taking them up to the front to talk about their status and then doing stuff to them. Um, yeah. And he would mainly prey on the ones who were trafficked.
Okay. Did you ever hear about anybody being trafficked, like when you were in foster care, like between like families or like just like to random people, like
Yeah, yeah. So actually, like, I've met people who have gone through that, and I don't really know their story, but being on the run and having to like stay in trap houses and do whatever I needed to do to survive, I met a lot of people and I kind of saw it firsthand. There's a lot that happens in California.
yeah. Okay. Well, how did you get out of um the the fuck, I keep on,
The ROP?
yeah, ROP. How
Yeah.
did Yeah.
So I remember it was like the day before my birthday, and I was like talking to my CASA worker and my social worker, and I was like, what's like, is there any word? Or it wasn't a day, it was like a couple weeks before. And I was like, is there anything going on? And they were like, no, we don't have any group homes. We don't have anything. And then the next thing they were telling me was, oh, we have a group home. But the thing they promised me was I would go to a foster home, like they always promised me,
Yeah.
even though sometimes they don't follow through. And so they were telling me I have to go to another group home, and it might be something similar like that. ROP did have lower level homes where you can go wear your own clothes. I think it's 6 people to a house, like my last group or the last group home before that one was, but you still went to an ROP school. It was still a lockdown school, and you still had staff with you all the time. But you could have a job, you could have a phone, and you can wear your own clothes. I didn't want to do that though because I had heard a lot of stories about even more abuse happening over there because there's no cameras, it's just a home. And so I was like, I thought about it for a while because if I said yeah, I want to go to a group home, they would send me to a group home, but I sat on it for a while. And I remember that's kind of when I got a little bit spiritual because I started reading books and I was like, I want to be in here forever. And then I just kind of started praying, and then I was like, no, I need to get out of here. So I need to get to this group home. And so they sent me off to another group home the day after my birthday.
Okay. And how was this group home? How was this one?
That one, Oh my gosh, so there was another group home. I'm sorry, there's been so many places. So there's been 4 group homes. That group home was pretty chaotic. So there was uh 6 girls, 3 rooms. You had a roommate. There was also an upstairs, but the upstairs was like the office. So you had the therapist and the case managers there. You had 2 case managers. And with that, it was also still structured, but it was pretty lenient. You could wear your own clothes. You couldn't have a phone, but you could have an iPod, and they put music on it for you. We went to a very, very small school. I think we had about 5 or 6 kids in our class, and we were half of that. Um, but in the morning, they would do breakfast time, get ready, go to school, come home, kind of get together and either do group therapy or kind of like what did you do good today? What can you do better tomorrow? To kind of like my first group home, and then bedtime, and then the next day. And sometimes we would do outings. They had levels, and you had to do certain things to get those levels, but that was mainly with your therapist. Like if you were doing well in therapy and you were meeting your goals, then your therapist would say, "Yeah, I think she's ready to level up."
Okay. You said something that kind of intrigued me. When you say they would load music onto it for you, do you mean that they're approving the songs you want on it, or do you mean that they're selecting what they
No,
want?
they're approving.
Okay. Okay. um okay, so after that, where did you go after that? What happened after that?
After that, that group home, I was doing really good. And then I found out my brother had passed away. But when um, they told me it was a suicide and it wasn't an overdose because he passed away from fentanyl. Um, he that kind of just sent me, and so I went off the deep end and started going on benders, and I got in trouble with the law, and so I was in and out of juvie at that point. And then they finally found I was going to different temporary homes at that point, so a couple days here, maybe 2 weeks here, but I was also in and out of juvie. So my almost last, second to last home, where it was like, this is your home now after the group home, um, was with a nice foster mom, and I had a foster brother, and that was pretty chill. I think that one was probably the best home I was in.
Okay. And so during that, so you ended up in another home essentially after all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how long did you stay there?
There, I want to say maybe half a year. It was a really great home. They didn't abuse me. They actually taught me how to cook a little bit. They would help me out, but I was just struggling so much. They would give me my space and my privacy, and maybe a little too much, but I mean, I was 16, 17 years old. I mean, I understand why they would give me my privacy, but I was using very heavily and not really around. And then I kept getting in trouble with the law. And I had called one of my friends, like at maybe 4 in the morning, because I was on a bender and I was locked out of the house because she didn't know I was out of the house. And then they called CPS and said that my foster mom wasn't taking care of me and I was outside. And then I got taken to another home. And then it was a temporary foster home. And that one was a little rough. They didn't really feed us too much, but they didn't like hit us or anything. Um, I was really trying hard to find anywhere else to go because they were telling me that I was going to get put into ROP again until I aged out. And so I ran away for like a whole year, almost a whole year, and I really wanted to go back to school. So I called my CASA worker and I was like, is there anything I can do? I don't want to go to ROP. I don't want to be in a group home. I'm doing really well. I had been struggling the first bit of me being on the run with drugs and stuff, but then I finally found people who took me in and was helping me get off. And I was sober for a good minute, relapsed a little bit, and then got sober, and I've been sober ever since. But finally, my CASA worker, she talked to the judge, and I had just gotten a new judge. The judge said, you know what, just come in and talk to me. We won't arrest you or anything. And I was very skeptical about this. So I got ready and I went to court. My friend took me, and I told the judge everything. I was like, you know my story. Obviously, this isn't working. I've been doing super well right now. Like, if there's any way that like I can do this on my own and like do it, then I do have a chance this way. And he was like, okay, we don't need to know where you are. You just need to go to school and you need to see your social worker 2 to 3 times a week. And that's what I did.
Okay. And during this time, it was just meth? Like, it was not...
Yeah, meth and Xanax for the most part.
Okay. And let's see. Okay, and up until now, like to where you are like today, is it like where do you like, do you have a place of your own now, or like are you still...
Not of my own, but I have been couch hopping ever since doing my own thing. I was staying with those people who were helping me. It was my friend. I dated her brother, and then we were on and off, and then that kind of fell apart. I had my own place for a little bit. I was in extended foster care until I was 21, and for that, they give you $1,000 every month, but you have to be either working or going to school. And sorry.
Yeah.
Cats and kids. You had to be working or going to school, and I was working I was working at a barber shop and doing babysitting and all different types of stuff. I had an apartment for maybe a couple months, and then my niece passed away, and I wanted to come back to the area. But just been couch hopping. Right now I'm staying with an old coworker. I just quit the job that I worked at with her a couple weeks ago because they weren't treating me well. But yeah, right now I'm looking for another job and I'm going to be saving. I have a boyfriend in Kansas and right now I'm in Missouri, so we're going to be saving up for a place. We both do music, so I got plans.
Cool. Okay. You want, like, when did you start doing the music thing?
Yeah, so my dad had always been doing music. He's been in cover bands, and music has always just been a part of my life ever since I was born. When I did have my own little setup, I remember my mom and dad used to tell me that I had speakers on both sides of my crib, and they would blast Metallica, and that was the only way I could sleep. But I think my dad bought me my first guitar when I was maybe 3 or 4. And then I got into ukulele when I was 11, and I started making beats when I was 11. I was always into like the EDM stuff. Like when I was 10, I really always wanted to go to raves. That's when I learned about raves, and wanted to be a DJ, started doing my ukulele stuff. And then I kind of lost track of it, going in and out of homes and whatnot. I couldn't keep up on it. And then finally, when I was able to, I started making beats again. I lost all the beats. They all got deleted. I worked super hard, and so I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna record my voice because I had always wanted to like sing or rap or something. Because in high school, I would always get into circles with my friends, and we would put on beats, and it would be like, okay, go, okay, go, okay, go. And it was super fun. So I've been making like recording my voice since 2021 and actually like releasing it and stuff since then.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, we should. I don't know. I think you know, but I make
Yeah,
music, so yeah, we should.
yeah. I've checked it out.
We should probably collab.
I'm
So
so down.
yeah. Um. Okay. And how did you get involved in your activism?
Yeah, so with the fentanyl awareness,
Yeah.
yeah, so my brother passed away in 2018 from fentanyl. I didn't know it was from fentanyl until I want to say 2022. I knew that it was an overdose before then, but when they first told me, they said it was a suicide. Didn't know he wasn't blood. I knew him from a group home, but we weren't in at the same time. So he kind of was the one when I was at my mom's, he was taking care of me. My mom didn't feed me. My mom would burn my clothes or break my stuff when she was mad at me. So if I needed food, clothes, he was the one. He was my brother. And he passed away in 2018 from that. And then in 2021, a good friend of mine who was in the first group home with me, he passed away from fentanyl as well, from a Xanax that he got from Snapchat. And then 2022, I lost my niece, my 13-year-old niece. Somebody she thought was a friend gave it to her. And then I lost 5 friends, my niece and my brother, and it's a lot of it was in 2022 and 2023. And I was like just so tired of it. You know, I see videos of people saying like, "Oh, I lost my daughter, I lost my sister, I lost my friend," and I'm just like, what do we do? Like, I'm tired of this. So I started looking on Facebook because I'm on there way too much. And I was looking at it and I come across this like advertisement and it says, "Are you tired of your friends dying from fentanyl?" And I was like, well, fuck yeah, I am. And so I click on it and it was they were doing a protest at the courthouse to try to make fentanyl a poison. And I was like, this is what we need to be doing. So I go there and I meet the guy and I'm like, look, like I really want to be a part of this. This means like so much to me that you do this. Like I didn't know people did this. And ever since then, I've just always helped him. He wasn't we weren't a 501(c)(3) organization yet, but we started becoming one, I want to say in November, but we became like an official organization that we were like, yeah, let's be an organization. I want to say in July of last year. And he's done this before. His son passed away from a fentanyl laced joint. Somebody that he thought was his friend was jealous of him. They were talking to the same girl, and I guess the girl liked Jim's son more than the other guy, and then retaliated. But that guy is actually in prison now. Not for that, but hey, we'll take it.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that, and rest in peace to all of them. I've lost more people than I can count. I've lost track of how many people. But I hear about dead people. I go to the methadone clinic, so I hear about dead people like all the fucking time.
Right, yeah.
All the
Yeah.
fucking time. And I actually see ambulances all the goddamn time down there too. So because
Yeah.
people just like aren't just ready to just do the methadone. There's still, and I was one of those people too.
Right.
For several years, just like, yeah, I'm gonna take the methadone so I'm not sick, but I'm still gonna do dope. Like,
Right.
why the fuck not? Because I was homeless and whatnot. And,
Right.
but what made you get clean? Like,
Oh,
is it
wow.
something that
Um,
happened, or like, did you just decide, or?
I don't know. I like I had been trying to get clean. I like that was always a thought in the back of my head, like because I had been using since I was like 11. So like it's been my life, and a lot of my friends, it was like, oh, they just started dabbling in high school, but like I was in it and I was struggling and I wanted out, and it was hard because everybody's starting to party and I wanted to stop, but I was just like I didn't want to hurt, and there was just like I was always in these places where it was like I can't feel better, I can't get away from the abuse, so I might as well just do something that makes me feel okay in the moment. And so once I really got out of situations that made me feel so crappy that I wanted to escape, like I got the opportunity to try to sweat it out and get some help. I was doing therapy at the time and all that stuff, and I had a really supportive person with me. It was really hard. I think moving out of that area helped a lot because even when I got clean or I would get clean for maybe a month, and then people would see me and be like, "Hey," like go to dab me up, and they would hand me something. Like they would give me stuff without even me asking, and I'm like, okay, I'm not strong enough. But I mean, after having my support system and everything, like It took a while, but
Okay. And did you so are you complete abstinence first of all, and then like did you like use NA or like AA? Like did you try and use that? Do you use it like?
so no, I still smoke weed. I will drink here and there if it's like my friend's birthday or something, nothing too crazy. I still smoke my cigarettes. Weed and cigarettes on the daily, drinking not so often. Um Weed kind of keeps me sane. I would like to be on medication, but I'm still trying to find a way to pay for therapy because, you know, the economy. But what was the other question?
um Complete abstinence, and then I was asking.
NA.
Yeah,
NA.
yeah.
So, yeah, I had tried NA for a while. When I was 19, I think I was about a year clean at that point, about to be. I was exploring with different NA groups, but what I learned is a lot of NA groups, there's people who get together because they're on court order and then they all get high together afterwards. So it was really hard to find an NA group where people wanted to be there and they didn't glorify drugs and they didn't use them still.
Yeah.
But I found one NA group that I kind of liked, but somebody was like really trying to 13th step me, so I left.
Yeah.
And also being that young in like an environment where people have been using for 50 years and now they've been clean for 15 and they I would always get like, why are you here? You're too young to be here. And that was also really hard. Getting older, it's been easier to find groups where they're not so judgmental like that. But I am still trying to find an NA group. I have a couple friends, sober friends here, where we've been talking and looking up different places. We have a list of places that we want to go. It's just some of us don't have cars, or some of us work, or, you know, adult things.
Yeah. My only thing, like, I have a couple of qualms with NA and AA, but my biggest thing is just like, you know, like, first of all, I just feel like they're hypocrites because they smoke cigarettes and drink coffee, so they're doing an addiction, and
Yes.
they just act high and mighty a lot of the time. Um, but you know, then like also like you're not powerless over this. I don't think we're powerless over the addiction, because if I was powerless, then I never would have gotten sober. Like
Right.
I did that. I did that. Like
Right.
I have power, and I feel like personally that takes away your personal power. When you say that I'm fucking powerless and I need to like, you know, like just like pray or whatever the fuck to, you know, to get better. It's just like I did it myself. Like I didn't need that. So I feel like it takes away people's personal power, just
I
personally.
totally agree. No, for real. The only I never had a sponsor or anything like that, but I wanted to go to NA to like remind myself I'm not alone. Like people
Yeah.
literally have to go and sit in a circle to talk about this. So like I'm doing okay. They're doing okay. Like
Yeah.
like I don't agree with the steps. I mean like I've always struggled with my spirituality and stuff. So
Yeah.
like, you know, that first step, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I do it to try to maybe get support because there's always, I mean, there's got to be at least one person I can find who thinks a little bit similar like me, right? That's what
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, totally. And I'm not like trying to put off anybody from NA and
Oh,
AA. Like I
yeah.
always say, like if it works, then fucking work it.
Yeah, if
Like
it
do that
works,
shit.
hey.
If it works for you, then do that. But
Right.
that's, and I feel like you can have your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean? You
Mhm.
can go there, but just realize that you're not powerless. You know what I
Right.
mean? You can do both. You know
Right.
what I mean? Just
Right.
like just because they say you're powerless doesn't mean you're actually
Right.
powerless. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I
And I
think we
feel like a
just
lot of
forget
people,
that.
yeah, a lot of people I feel like get trapped in the mirror with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so
because
just
we do hold a lot of power. We can do this shit if we put our minds to it. I mean, look at us.
yeah, I'm living proof I shouldn't even be here. uh,
See.
um, let's see. What have you struggled with the most as a result of being in foster care and group homes and just like going through that? Because I can only imagine how just the process of just going from home to home and being shifted. Essentially, try like if you look at it like by definition, you're trafficked, but you're trafficked by the government. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
no,
So you're
100%.
trafficked by the, yeah, 1000%. So like, just like what have you struggled with the most as a result of all of this?
Um, Probably like, I mean, like I still feel like I was like shut out from like being myself. So like I felt like I had a very sure sense of who I was before I went there. And then when I went there, everything, my personality was stripped. The things I liked were stripped. I wasn't allowed to like the things I liked. I wasn't allowed to speak my mind. I wasn't allowed to be a person. I had to be a robot. And so doing that for so long and then going into a group home where like you low key kind of have to be like that too, otherwise you don't get your points. It just sometimes I struggle with not being a robot and like sometimes I'm scared like when I walk into like stores or like I'm 22, I walk into a casino, I'm like what can I do? Like what are the rules? Like I'm just like always scared that I'm going to get in trouble or I'm going to get yelled at or something. Like even though I know it's not that serious like it was at ROP, but it's just I think I struggle with that the most. The sense of myself I'm still learning. I still am trying to find what I lost before that.
Okay. Okay. And did you ever like struggle with like just like being in a foster home and just like wanting so badly to just like not have to go somewhere else, and just like did you ever feel like you had to like appease like the parents or just like act like a certain way, or just like I have to be a robot? Is that, do you feel like that kind of goes into in with like I have to act like a robot? Do you think
Yeah. For most of the times there was maybe 3 or 4 homes that really weren't like that. I could kind of just be myself, but at the same time it was like I didn't know where to push the boundaries. I didn't know if I could, can I say these things? Can I be myself? Can I make that joke? Um, yeah, I did feel like I had to be a robot sometimes because a lot of those places were abusive and they were like, they would either hit me or they would not feed me or, stuff like that. So it was like I have to kind of walk on eggshells and learn how they want me to be and then kind of program myself to be that way for the time there. And then do it the next time and the next time and the next time. And that's why sometimes I'm like, who am I?
yeah, yeah. Okay. And so how many how many foster homes total? It was like five, and then like
um,
4 group homes.
I stopped counting at 40 foster homes and then 4
Okay.
group homes.
Okay. Okay. Wow, that's that's insane. I
Yeah.
can only imagine what that would be like. Was there anybody that tried to run from any of the like group homes you were at?
Yeah, so I ran away from my first group home with 2 of the kids, twice. I got caught both times. Um, the second group home I was at, I also so actually, I ran away from all of my group homes except for ROP because that one was the lockdown and that one was in the middle of nowhere. And they would always talk about how some girls tried running away and they ran on the left side and it was somebody's property and they got shot. And then if you ran on the right side, the police station was down the street. And then if you ran anywhere else, the coyotes were going to get you. So nobody really tried running away from there.
Okay. And did they have at ROP, did they have any like like the place I went, like if you acted up and like misbehaved, they threatened me with Tranquility Bay, Jamaica, and they said they don't even have child protection laws over there. Like they'll just break your arm and stuff like that. So was there any places that they would threaten people with if they were acting up a bunch? Was there anything like
Yeah,
that?
so at ROP, if they weren't around the cameras, they would threaten you like that. I would see people get like slapped and stuff like that, but at the group homes that were like houses, there was a lot of that, especially in my first home because a lot of those staff members were also struggling with substance abuse and also doing the substances with the kids. And so there's fights about stupid stuff and you're high. And so they would,
Okay. Okay. And what do you think would have helped you in like What would have helped you instead of being sent to like the group homes? I guess is a good way to phrase this question.
I think a lot of it was like I wasn't actually genuinely getting help. A lot of my therapists, they didn't help me a lot. A lot of them told me that like I was the reason I was in foster care and like all that type of stuff. And like if I felt like hurting myself, then I should go through with it. And it's like, why are therapists telling me that? So like I feel like they're just like I needed a genuine person, and like my CASA worker was there, but there was only so much she could do, and you know she's a little older and has her own family and stuff. But I think somebody like her as my home would have been nice because none of my foster homes really tried to understand me. Um, and so I just never was listened to and I never got help, and I think that nobody actually gets help in the foster system.
Okay. And was there anything positive about your experiences in the group homes? And it's totally
Mm,
fine if there is not. I just always want to ask.
Um, experiences, I I mean the kids, sometimes I had beef with some of them, but the a lot of them it was like because we suffered so much together, it was like that became my family, you know, like all of those people. Like I still keep in contact with a lot of the people that I was in ROP with and that I was in group homes with, and I tell them all the time like, yo, the shit that we went through was crazy. I'm so glad that like even throughout all of that, like I had you guys.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want people to know about your experience or anything that you might tell, like, or never mind, because parents wouldn't be sending their kids away because there's not parents involved. So, is there anything else you want people to know about your experience?
Um, just that like it wasn't good, and like I really hope that like if anyone is considering like any of those places that they shouldn't, and like just like I think the best way if somebody doesn't know, because like it's not just brainwashing for the kids, it's brainwashing for the parents and anybody who's struggling and doesn't know what to do if it is that case. um just trying to help in the best way possible. Therapy is a great way to go, like resources like that, you know, if you find the right therapist, because not everybody's evil, but those places, I think all of those places should be shut down. And I feel genuinely heartbroken for all the kids who are in there right now. And I hope that they all get out.
Yeah, me too. Me too. That's one of the main reasons why work like this is so important. So if you have watched so far in the
Yes.
video, please make sure you share the video, you interact with the video, comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. And also, be quick before we end, like, is there like a you can plug your like the activism? Like, I don't know what your
Yeah. So, us. And I'm interviewing both of them. Sorry, cats and kids.
it's all good.
uh, a second chance at life. We're on everything, so mainly Facebook. But if you want to follow us on TikTok or Instagram, it's a.secondchanceatlife23.
Okay, cool. And I will link it down in the description when this video is posted. And thank you guys so much for watching the video, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye, y'all.